Hello and welcome to another edition of Leafless, Not Lifeless. I'm Sharon Benjamin. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I have an amazing guest, as always. So today Monique Jones is with me, and she's going to talk a lot about how she has gotten through some of her own trauma and how she's using that to help other people. Welcome, Monique.
Thank you, Ms. Benjamin, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and chat with your family and everything. I'm excited to share my story and chat with you.
Yes, go from there. All right. So, Monique, in reading some of your information, you mentioned, some childhood trauma. I want to share a little bit more about you. Let's make sure I get this right. Uh, I really need to, ask my my 10-year-old great nephew uh, as to how to navigate, uh, but I have it here. Okay. So you talk about being a coach and healing guide and talking about how you got through certain things. So you send me some great information. So at the end, we can also talk about how people can get in touch with you and you can share more information. And we'll learn more as we go through. But I wanted to just share this a little bit and let people know a little bit about who you are, how you got to where you are today, how you've gone through trauma, and how you're using that to help other women. So, why don't you talk to us about the childhood trauma, or what trauma that brought you to realizing that your life could be beneficial, your experience could be beneficial to other women?
Okay, I would love to share my story. Growing up, I had an amazing family. My dad's a military, and my mom also is, an amazing mom. In my family, we had some issues, where there's some alcoholism and some physical abuse. With those things happening in my family, it causes some issues growing up in childhood, where autonomy is not fully there, but it's a pretty good foundation. With that, as I continue to grow in my childhood or go experience in my life, I noticed there was little hiccups or little flags and that I kept on running into. And we are also, my family, we also went to church. And so we highly believe in faith and God. And so I've had some counseling here and we've had some counseling there, but I still felt in my spirit that there was something that needs to go deeper, because I just kept on going on this hamster wheel. And when you're on the hamster wheel, you're not really present and grounded in your body. And so just through prayer and meditation with God, and he sent me some things of what I needed to do in terms of journaling. I love journaling. My mom always gave me journals, and so that just carried on to my adulthood until now. And so I always journaled, I always prayed. I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And so as an educator, I love to teach kids. And so I was in that field and working all the time, in which that was the number one flag that kind of stemmed from my childhood with the trauma and the PTSD and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, wait a minute, I need to pause for a second, because sometimes in our systems of families, when we have trauma, we constantly go on that wheel of, okay, we got to be perfect, we got to do this right, some of us experience OCD, or some of us experience alcoholism, or some of us experience some type of addiction, a obsessive compulsive addiction that keeps us from where we need to be our greatest self. And so yes.
Yes, so you mentioned some of the hiccups. Can you be specific with some of those hiccups that you noticed or experienced?
So I noticed with the hiccups, I was constantly getting into car accidents, not saying that's because of my family trauma, but that there goes again with being present. So if you're always on the robotic mode of just going here to point A, and you're not noticing your surroundings because you're in the past, and scientifically, your issues are in your tissues. And so that was also showing up in my body. after a major car accident. And so I really didn't pay attention to it really, but I could feel it in my body. And so the other hiccup would be like in my relationships, meeting certain people, whether it's romantically or friendships, and they had similar toxic um, flags where they weren't really there. They were leaving or ghosting or what have you. And I was like, there's something going on. And I know that energetically, we are mirrors of ourselves. And so sometimes when we meet people, we're mirroring what's going on internally, spiritually. And so I was like, I need to work on I don't need to change the person that I'm seeing right in front of me. I need to change myself because that's the most investment that you can do. And so starting to love myself, I was very heavily involved in serving. And so I learned that that was seeing validation, which I was trying to get from home. And so, and in church, you can get caught up in that. So church is always saying, oh, you got to serve on this, you got to serve on that. But um, holistically, we need to see why we're doing it. We need to see it. We need to go for it from the heart, not from like, okay, I checked this box. Okay, I went to church on Sunday. I served on this ministry. I fed the homeless. That's not what God wants us to do. And so when I came to that epiphany, I was like, oh, okay. And then also helping ministers, friends that were ministers with their ministry. And I'm a very loyal person, and in whatever I do, I give my 100%, and I go, with all my energy. And I wasn't getting that feedback back where I needed help, and it was always like, which just goes to people pleasing, and so that
Oh,
created a codependency. And so I noticed that flag and those different triggers.
so you mentioned a phrase here I like. You said our issues are in our tissues. What
Yes,
did
it is
you
a
what did you
book.
what did you mean by that?
There's a book out there, which that's on my book list to read because I read lots of books. And so energetically, when we're in trauma, epigenetics, so if let's say, let's see, we are energy beings, our nervous systems, any type of trauma that we experience, whether someone said, oh, you're not good enough, or whether someone was spanking you and you notice that, okay, I didn't do something right. And so that particular experience is in your tissues. And so emotionally, anger. So if you're triggered by something that by somebody says, oh, you didn't do that right, but they're not saying you didn't do it right. It's just the task wasn't done right. So that tissue or that experience is locked in your software or your hardware because I see ourselves as computers, and so we are we remember the things in the past versus the things in the present, and of course we can't remember anything in the future because
Yes,
we're
of course.
creating our future.
Yes.
And so most our brain is based upon our past experiences, and so if you have things repetitively spoken to you or done to you, those things are embedded in your software program or
So
a file.
so Monique, at what point did you realize you needed to actually deal with what was in your tissue? At what point did you realize that and decide to face what you knew was traumatizing you?
Well, it was an evolving experience because it started with at a younger age, but as I got older, I went deeper into it. And then my last major car accident, I learned about more about the issues being literally in our tissues. Because energetically, when I was in that car accident, um, it, it affected my physical body where I had numb hands, numb feet. My soles of my feet were black. And so settling down and being present and not always being busy. So that meant I needed to take a break from school and be able to heal my body because I wasn't able to carry stuff on my back. I had to get a cart and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, I'll just get a cart and I'll be fine. And I'll just keep on doing, my teaching thing and I'll be fine. But the body needs to heal. And the body, once you give the body enable it to heal itself, it's good. And then also, not only did I need physical healing, but I also need emotional healing to actually address those issues from my childhood a little bit deeper. So that's when I noticed that, because I just noticed that I can't be on this hamster wheel. I'm not present. I'm meeting the same people. I
Same types
I
of
just,
people,
huh?
the same types of people.
The same types of people, just in a different body.
Yes. So this is, I like what you're saying about the trauma and the different kinds of trauma, because often when we talk about childhood trauma, we're talking about, how someone has been abused or abandoned. But from your perspective here, what we're getting is that trauma can happen without some of those, what we usually hear, like the hardcore, someone abused me, someone abandoned me, I was left all alone. So it's a different take that you're getting here, that you're giving to us.
Absolutely. Trauma can be in any sense. I think, in my opinion, globally, we went through trauma with the COVID. Um, Things that we watch on TV can also create trauma, because if you're always fed fear-based news, then that triggers in your frequency to be at a fear-based level. And then that's another programming or repetition that's being programmed into your mind. Instead of, not saying life is all positive, but the more negative energy we listen to, or negative news, then that becomes our reality, versus what we dream and what we imagine. Because I just think, I don't know if you think about Miss Benjamin, I think about when we were kids, right? We imagine, we play, we were saying we're going to be doctors, we're going to be lawyers, we're going to be princesses, we're going to be all these grandiose things. And when we became an adult and started adulting, all those things kind of went away. We went to, like, okay, we got to go to college. We got to get the family. We got to get the, husband. We got to get the wife and all that kind of stuff. But we forgot about our childlike experience, right? And so from 0 to 7 are the most programming or very important years. And that's when children are they're sponges. And so after that, it's already a set as a blueprint and foundationally of how we think, how we feel. And then on top of that, whatever your environment was, and then on top of that, the society giving you information too, which also plays a part in how we function, like whether or not we're going to play with somebody, or whether or not, all those different opinions and things that we continue to have in our adulthood.
So, Monique, how are you taking what you have, what you've experienced, your realization? How are you taking that to help other women eventually face their trauma? Because sometimes people don't realize they've been traumatized. And so, how do you help other women to know, okay, you're in a trauma situation?
So I'm not a licensed therapist. That is, something that I wanted to do, but right now I'm a coach. And so I want to share something with you, because there is a difference. And so I like to partner up and collaborate with therapists as a coach. And also think, as, leaders, we also have to do our inner work when we're shining our light out here, so that we're not projecting our own issues onto them. So let me see. Let me share something really quick. Let's see, where is he? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So as you can see here, like, you can see the differences between a therapist and a life coach. So both of us, we listen deeply, we listen to our clients, right? And then we create a safe environment for, for our clients to be able to be heard, seen, and listened to. And then we also have accountability and goal settings. But the difference between a therapist and a coach, a therapist is going to diagnose, whether it be with medication, and they're going to see the progress of their client with their treatment plan, right? And then they're also going to work a little bit longer term with their client versus a coach. And so therapists practice more on the past, present, and future, whereas to myself, as a coach, I'm going to look at the present and the future. And I see myself as a facilitator that's facilitating whatever the client's goal is, versus treating their trauma. And also as a certified abuse recovery coach. So that means that the person, I as a recovery coach, they're in recovery. So I'm that, person that can help them along their journey. as a guide. But ultimately, their higher power is their guide. Their inner intuition is their guide, or the Holy Spirit is their guide. Because otherwise, if you don't allow that to happen, it creates a codependency between the two people. And
So
so,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
with coaching, it's less the term. So it could be a few weeks, it could be 6 months or 3 months. That's based upon the package, because you don't necessarily want, but you want to create a tailored package so that the client reaches their goal. But it's not going to be like they're coming for a long term like they do a therapist. Or sometimes in therapy is treatment or maintenance. So those are the things I wanted to share.
All right. So medical professionals, they diagnose people and they give them different um, treatments for certain illnesses, heart attack, diabetes, or whatever the case might be. So when you are helping your clients, when you're coaching your clients, do you have a different lesson plan, so to speak, for different types of trauma? You mentioned PTSD and some other situations earlier. So how do you package for people with different trauma?
So with that, as they come in as an intake, there's a questionnaire, a quiz, an assessment or pre-assessment to get a little bit of their background. And then also asking them, what is their goals? What do they want to get out of this? So it's more participatory, because, in the classroom or in life, you yourself have to apply what you need to learn or what you want to do in order to be that successful person. Me, I can say, okay, you need to do meditations this many times, you need to journal this many times, but if you're not doing the work, then there's no inner healing. And so in the contract that my client signs, it says you are committed to your progress, your journey. Because if you're not committed, then we're not a good fit. And so those questions will kind of weed those things out, because my goal and my passion is to work with somebody who's ready, who's like, yes, Monique, let's get it. Okay. And so, that's my goal, because on my healing process, I'm in it. I'm all the way in, because I'm the most precious jewel that I can invest in. And that also shows up. You're showing up for yourself and you're showing love for yourself. And that's the greatest love that you can ever show for yourself, is love to your own self.
So that's self-care. So
Mm-hmm.
Monique, let's just say someone comes to you who fits the bill completely, signs the contract, and for a while is all in. And by the end of the contract, the person goes on the way, but has a relapse. How do
So the
how do you
relapse.
how do you help people in those situations? Because you think about what is it, the Alcoholics Anonymous and some of the other programs where people have to, go, and sometimes there's a relapse. So do you have situations like that? And if so, how do you help them get back on track?
So in relapse, because as a certified abuse recovery coach, we use the 12 steps program. And so in the 12 steps program, there are several different things that you have to connect with. You're going through the 12 steps, and the top three steps, 1, 2, 3, the first three steps are the most important steps. That is, acknowledging you're powerless, right? And then that's acknowledging God, and that's letting go of the things that, you can't handle. And then also getting rid of those toxic places, toxic things, and toxic people and other things, etc. If and then also having your call to action group. And so that also having a sponsor. That doesn't mean I'm your sponsor. That means if you're in a 12 steps group it could be for alcohol, it could be for eating disorder, you would need a sponsor. So you have a community, a tribe of people. And so if the person has relapsed, then they're not necessarily doing the action steps for their recovery. It's not that the coaching didn't work. It's because the action steps of the individual, are they committed to their healing? Are they committed to the journey? Did they go through the 12 steps? Do they have an action partner? Are they checking in each day? Do they have a sponsor? Have they changed their environment? Because if you don't change your environment, you're going to be on the hamster wheel still, because the environment plays a major role. And so we will look at those things. And I think as a coach, having that pre-assessment, having those goals and having those SMART goals, having measurable, when we're going to have those dates done, and breaking them into small bites. You know, they say, what's the old saying? They say, how do you eat an elephant? You eat small bites, because you can't eat the whole elephant. He's huge. So, you know, it's taking those bit by bits, because doing this work can be overwhelming. And so chunking it up, and it's also tailored to each individual. So chunking it up and making small bites, and then also going back saying, good job, high five, you did it. And then doing that inner child work, because doing recovery is reparenting yourself, because the autonomy wasn't set there at the beginning stages of your childhood. And so that means checking in on your feelings each day. That means doing the journal work. That means letting your inner child say, oh, you know, I want to go to the store. I want to pick this out. And it's okay. Not saying, oh, Johnny, you can't have that, because that's what your parents did.
That sounds wonderful. And something you just mentioned about how a person might have to change a number of things. There might be people who are in certain environments where they can't change that physically. How do you help them to understand that somehow you have to carve out a space where you are in that present environment that can't be changed for whatever reasons, maybe economics or whatever? How do you help them to understand you can recreate an environment within your environment?
I love that you asked that. So I learned from this amazing coach. She's a therapist, Terry Cole, and she calls it Zindan. And so I call it my happy place. And so creating the happy place, or Zindan. So it could be like, you know, an oasis from the toxic environment, whether it's in your closet. So I don't know if you watched the prayer room, and lady, she had a prayer room in her closet, and major miracles happened. And then when the home was sold, it was a presence of God's presence in the closet. And so that could be anywhere. That could be like, I was watching Tamara Hall the other day, and this little kid, he had his own little Zen den inside of a cabinet, watching little tablet on there. So it could be anywhere. And so he likes, I guess that's his little man cave. He was only 6 years old starting with man cave, but anyway. So that could be anywhere. But my little Zen den or happy place is, I love to sit on the floor. So I have like a cool, huge, big pillow. And of course, I don't know, y'all see my lights in the back. So I like my little lights, and I like my art. And then I also have diffusers, candles, whatever brings your inner child or your inner self happiness. And it just gives you that peace and calm, and you're allowed to be grounded and centered, is what you add into your happy place. And you just set that for yourself. Like, and the other thing about that is setting boundaries. So you let people around you know that, please don't touch this area. And then if there's consequences to that, you know, as well. So you're able to advocate for yourself.
I like that, because I'm thinking about when people might not realize that they can do that. So I'm guessing that somehow or another you have to help them understand that, because some people's environments are toxic, their environments are traumatic, and they have to just kind of understand that you can create a space. It might be just for maybe a few minutes within a space, because sometimes it's a shared space, and
Absolutely.
it might be difficult for them to understand that. So you have to bring that to their attention and help them to realize that
Yes.
that it can happen. So what else is, I have something else here, I believe. Yes, let's see. You might, oh, I want you to talk about, I know you've talked about it a little bit, you alluded to it, but your RTLW, the Behind Route to Living Waters, your tailored approach.
Okay. So Rooted to Living Waters is the name of my business. A little bit of background of how it came to be. It's from the scripture, and I have a few notes if you see me looking down. And it's from Jeremiah 17, 7 through 8. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and whose hope is the Lord, and for he shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river and will not fear when the heat comes, but its leaf will be green and will not be anxious in the year of drought, nor cease to yield fruit. So with Rooted to Living Waters, the name came to be with the roots being that there are some roots in our generational bloodline that have been transferred over epigenetically, and that the waters are those cleansing waters from our God, our Creator, that can cleanse those things and wash those things and recreate those things as a canvas when an artist is painting. And so and then also rooted too. So we all have, or let's see, how can I say this? So we have an ego, right? And so they say ego is edging God out. And so a lot of times with 12 steps or obsessive compulsive disorders, whatever disorders that we are trying to be our own like God or idol per se, and saying, oh no, I don't need no help. I got this. And so being rooted to the living waters, being rooted to the creator and saying, I can't control this. I need your help. And being led by the Holy Spirit, being led by our holy intuition, allows us to take us on the journey into our purpose, into healing.
And we will and some of this I think you kind of alluded to. Now you have tapping into higher power as inner guide, becoming recentered and grounded, building amazing morning and evening routine that supports daily life. You mentioned earlier about the fun, and sometimes you mentioned women are often so driven by, we're nurturers, and we're just so driven by, I need to do this, I need to be in control of this. If I'm not in control of this, it's not going to happen. But realizing that someone else can do it as well. So just letting go of those kinds of things. And you said something earlier too, alluded to, I like to do a number of things. And I like to do things that are fun. And when it's fun, whether it's my writing or speaking, producing, whatever it is, it doesn't seem like work. And hopefully you're helping some of the women realize that.
Yes, it's very important. I know the trend now is called soft life. And so just to tap a little bit into it, but as I mentioned throughout the conversation, our chat, we are made up of feminine and masculine energy, right? And so we as feminine creatures, we are creative beings. And so we're receivers. And then our masculine side is more of a doing. And so when we're in that masculine side, we should be in that not 100% of the time, because that depletes our adrenal glands, that depletes our health and all that kind of stuff. We need to learn how to balance that out if we're working the 9 to 5 or if we're a business owner, because most of us, we should be in our creative space, whether male or female, because that brings us playfulness, that brings us joy. And so when we can balance those things out, as women, we feel more fulfilled and whole.
Well, this is awesome. Monique, thank you so much for sharing this information. I want people to be able to get in contact with you. So how can they do that?
So let's see. I want to share a little something here. Well, I still thank you for allowing me to share my passion, and it was amazing chatting with you, Ms. Benjamin. So let's see.
Yes, please share that, because I'd love for more people to get in touch with you.
I have to go. Let's see. It's at the very end. Okay. I don't know if y'all can see that.
Yes, and very good, very good. Thank you so much. This is
Well, it's my
awesome.
pleasure.
This is awesome. So I want people to get in touch with you. I think it's so important for people to recognize that they've been traumatized. Sometimes people don't realize that. But once they realize it, then they can certainly get in touch with you. So, Monique, are you doing your programs virtually as well?
So currently I'm doing them virtually. Let me stop the screen share. Currently I'm doing virtually. I'm not, I currently don't have them in person. And I'm kind of revamping my program as well, because at one point I was seeing men and women. So at this time I'm only seeing women. And so, yes, currently they're virtually through Zoom.
And guess what? Those of you who are listening and need some help with recognizing and getting over your trauma, Monique can help you from wherever you are, Dubai, London, Africa, wherever. Get in touch with her. Monique, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. And those of you listening and viewing, thank you so much. And if you have a story as to how you have, at one time you were looking leafless and lifeless, but you were actually growing and developing, you may contact me. I'd love to share your story. Leafless, not lifeless at gmail.com. And I will see you the next time right here on Leafless, Not Lifeless with Sharon Benjamin. Again, Monique, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Benjamin. It's a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.